Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. Really? Nah, I'm not going to do it. There is something that always comes to mind when I say that, and I'm not going to say it. I'm going to change my glasses, however. I always do that. Clean my glasses on my shirt, and yeah, I've got a cleaning cloth. So you're going to see me clean my glasses now. Microfiber cleaning cloth. Great for cleaning screens as well. Mind you, sometimes a bit of isopropyl alcohol works just as well, if not better. Go on in there. Right, well, we will continue with a piece that we started last night, which is on my desk somewhere. I know it is, it's there. Which was candy cane. And yes, I'd run out of, well, I haven't run, yes, I'd run out of yellow rings. I needed to get some more out last night, and I decided rather than get some more out, that would be it for the evening. So I've got some, I get the silver ones back out, but I'm going to need some more silver as well. This bracelet is only about half the length it should be, but hopefully now it will get a bit easier. I'm going to turn that down a bit. Music's a little bit loud. With games being loud, and then you turn them down, and then the master volume wants to be louder because something else is quieter, and trying to balance sound is, relatively speaking, quite a pain in the neck. Well, just get this last ring out, and I've got enough ringings out for the moment, so ah dear, quite why it crashes I don't know. It's almost as though they do it in order to get you to try and use their new application. They don't like their new application, so I'm not going to do it. So let's try again with music player. So the intro music again, but never mind. Right. What we're doing now is just open a number of rings. Oh yes, I was going to turn it down. Just a touch. These rings are aluminium. They're made from aluminium. Hey, it's surprising, isn't it? Aluminium rings made from aluminium. You'd never guess. Right, I'm just turning a fan on because it's a little bit warm here in the studio tonight, so I'll put it that way. Then when I don't get it blowing straight in my eyes, which would be a problem. So aluminium rings. Aluminium, great metal for doing this because it doesn't tarnish. And it can be dyed, which is what the colouring is here, which is produces some really nice colours. Relatively soft metal, aluminium of course, which makes it easy to work with. But it is, although it's relatively soft, it is a strong metal. So you know, it's softer than steel, for example, but harder than some others. So it does make good rings. They don't stretch unless you put a lot of force on them. And if you're putting that much force into a bracelet or a necklace, then so they don't tarnish. They're also, how would you describe it, hypoallergenic. They there's no nickel in there, for example. I forgot what other metal it is people are commonly allergic to, but this is doesn't contain nickel, doesn't contain any of the other substances, so it's excellent for jewellery for people who have got allergies to some of the metals that are used. These are not plated, so silver plating, for example, is sometimes done on top of nickel and copper. In fact, usually to silver or gold plate, they plate 2 or 3 metals on top of each other in order to actually get the silver or gold to stick in the end. Because for some of the metals that they use in plated jewellery, silver plate actually won't stick to the base metal, or gold plate for that matter. So they use a combination, copper being a favourite one, which is why sometimes if you do wear silver plating off things, it goes a copper colour. That's because they've used copper as the underlying, either the underlying metal or a plating of its own on top of something else. Also, when I'm doing this, I'm making bracelets. Bracelets, generally speaking, have clasps, and I use sterling silver for that. And I'm thinking about perhaps trying stainless steel, because of course silver does tarnish, goes dark. Stainless steel won't, so it should stay as shiny. I mean, the sterling silver of course gives you a little bit of precious metal, and generally speaking again hypoallergenic. But stainless steel, in theory, especially if you use the surgical grade stainless steel, also shouldn't tarnish. Again, if it's surgical grade, it shouldn't have any allergies or reactions. And although it's not quite as shiny as sterling silver is, in fact it looks a little bit sort of dull next to it. It's only when you put the two next to each other that you'll see it. I have been using sterling silver because certain people who wear jewellery, within literally hours, if they have silver plate, for example, and silver plated, they call them findings, but silver plated clasps, for example, could be something I'd use. But there are some people that within literally hours wear that silver off, and then you're left with whatever the underlying metal is. Sometimes that looks nice, but offhand, of course, that's not what was intended. It was intended to be shiny silver. Right, so I'm opening rings, making the gap wider so that I can pass it through other rings. I'm doing this using a tool, well, two tools actually, the pliers and the ring that's over my finger. That effectively is just slots. And just drop the, well, don't drop, but place the ring in the slot and twist. I don't need to hold the ring steady in order to open it. I just need to be able to twist it against something, just like you would do the fingers perhaps. So this does make it quicker. I don't have to start positioning pliers and picking them up, putting them down, that sort of thing. So it does. It is a tool which does speed up the preparatory work. Pliers I'm using here are called chain nose. Sometimes they get called needle nose as well. In different spheres of work, electronics for example, they tend to get called needle nose rather than chain nose. But the principle jewellery wise, the reason why they're called chain is so that you can get the points in the chain to manipulate it when you make chains. The other thing about these pliers is that they have no teeth on the inside. They're perfect, well, they're smooth. I was about to say perfectly smooth. Of course nothing technically is perfect, but they are smooth. The reason for that is that they don't create an impression on the metal or scratch it. If I was using the serrated jaw pliers and I squeezed sufficiently hard enough, those serrations are relatively sharp. They would actually dig into the aluminium and therefore mar the surface, could scratch it. And even something like titanium, you can actually damage because titanium is usually anodized as well, and you can damage the anodized coating. So you use flat so no serrations. Often also, so all the pliers that you use jewellery wise, usually, as I say, no serrations on them. These are chain nose. You can get some that are flat, which is like that. Just a straight pliers. They're useful for larger rings, and because these are quite small, when I apply a twist, I have to be a little bit careful. The possibility is of, instead of bending the wire, you sort of create a kink in it, which can happen especially with stronger wire than the aluminium, and the bigger pliers help avoid that. You also get them with bent noses. I won't show you one, but the nose basically bends up. Won't show you because it's holding that camera down at the moment, but and then you'll see them again in a moment. These are standard pliers. Work like a pair of scissors if you like, except they come together obviously at the point, but essentially like a pair of scissors, two pieces of metal closing. My favourite pair of pliers is actually what they're called parallel jaw pliers, and they don't work the same way. These have a pivot in the middle around which they open and close, so you get like an X with a pivot point in the middle. Parallel jaw pliers are different. in that they don't, the way in which they are set up means that the jaws stay parallel to each other. Instead of creating a V shape like these, they stay parallel to each other as you close them. Very good for holding rings because it holds them in multiple points, whereas these sorts of pliers hold rings in 2 places, literally only 2 places, whereas these will hold it in lots. Right, so now I can carry on weaving. I put 1 yellow ring in last night, which was to help me remember where things go. And 1 ring I didn't open. Let me just open that ring, otherwise I'll be trying to slot it through somewhere without realising I've forgotten to open it and then get really frustrated. Now then, so this has to go through there, there and there, and check I've done it right. I have. And then I can close it up. So closing the ring is twisting it to align the ends and pushing them together so that the ends actually meet. And when I do that, then you get a joint. I won't say it's seamless, but it is quite difficult to see. Sometimes it's even difficult to feel. If you get a really good join, you're not joining them, just putting them up to each other. But if you get it really good, you can't see it, you can't feel it. Sometimes if you've made a mistake and need to take it apart, that can be a bit of a problem. If you can't see the join and you can't feel the join, trying to twist the ring open is quite difficult. But and if you don't get it right, and you're holding the pliers and you twist, you actually just bend and mangle the ring. Okay, that tells you where the end is, and you take it off, but you've just ruined your ring, so you then have to start with a new one. Yeah, so that goes through there, through there, through there, and through there. Okay, so now then, yesterday I was having I always have problems. That's not strictly true. I wasn't having a problem, but it was taking me a time to work out where the rings actually went, because candy cane is quite a convoluted in some ways it's a convoluted sort of weave, just because of the way all the rings sort of interweave with each other, but also candy cane is often done with 3 colours of rings because it works with 3 colours of rings. And when you're doing it with 3 colours of rings, it's relatively easy to see where things go, because you sort of follow the colour patterns, and the certain things, as you're inserting the rings, you get used to it. The colour patterns help you work out where the next ring goes, and you can see if you've done something wrong because the colour pattern's not right. I'm doing it with two colours here because what I wanted is, candy cane has an inbuilt natural spiral, and I was wanting to try and enhance that spiral. Now the 2 colours I've chosen, so it's silver and yellow. I was hoping that you'd see the spiral. Now in actual fact the yellow is quite a low contrast, so it's not as visible as it might be. But yesterday I did have to spend a lot of time working out where the colours went, especially because I'm used to doing it with 3. and I kept having to refer to photographs until the end of the evening, when of course, well, as is usually happens when you either just finishing something, you suddenly go, ah, that's how it works, and then it becomes obvious from then on. And so usually that sort of moment happens just as you're finishing something. You could have done with knowing it several hours earlier, but you don't. You get to know it right at the end. But luckily this time I learnt that not right at the end. I learnt it in the middle of the process, at the end of the evening. Let's tip that camera up just a touch. Let's also bring it in a little bit and focus a bit more on what I'm doing. Okay, let's see how that goes. My pliers. It's really difficult, of course, because I'm working with relatively small rings, and a large screen. So it does make it a little bit awkward to try and get a decent picture just about any angle that I work at. Means you don't get to see what I'm doing very well, I'm afraid. Now then, that was 2 lots of silver, and now we're going to gold again. So 4 silver rings followed by 2 gold rings, and then repeat. In actual fact, the 2 rings I'm just putting in now are actually, relatively speaking, the most awkward ones. These at 2 are the key for the next block, and they determine the actual positioning of the next block of colour. So if I get these wrong, then the next block is misaligned, it's twisted in the wrong place, and that's what I was trying to avoid yesterday. That's got silver, yeah. Okay. So for anybody that's watching, all of the jewellery that you see being made is, well, on any stream of mine, that is, is available to be bought. A lot of it you can see on Etsy, The URL for that is on screen at the moment, on the left there, and a lot of those pictures at the bottom left are actually of items which have been made on stream, just as I'm making this one on stream, and they're now available in the Etsy shop. So of course I'd encourage you to take a look. There are 15 different colours of rings available, so yeah, if you see something in the shop that you like but would like it in a different colour, for example, I mean this, I love now this silver and yellow, so there are a number of chains available in the shop and necklaces, and if you decide you'd like one but you want it in a different colour, then either you can message me on Twitch, or you can send a conversation within Etsy, and we can arrange different colours. Don't only do jewellery though. If you keep watching the channel and watch the photographs that are appearing in the bottom left, you will see, like that one that's just appeared now, that's scraper board. That's earthrise. Scraper board is porcelain clay with black Indian ink over the top of it, which you then scratch off, producing or leaving the white behind. And you can produce absolutely amazing images that way. And you'll see some of them popping up on screen. Earthrise there, there's a cottage, and John Miles is in there, and oh yes, of course, the leopard. The leopard is in there as well, which I've really enjoyed doing all of those. I like black and white work, or monochrome work, which is one of the reasons you'll also see, like you just saw a moment, that's John Miles by the way, is pyrography. Pyrography literally means fire writing, pyro fire, the graphy is writing. I believe the words for a Greek root, an ancient Greek roots, but quite literally we very rarely write, and we don't use fire, or I don't use fire. There are pyrographic artists that do. You can find them on YouTube using a blowtorch or an acetylene torch. Generally speaking though, they're doing that outside on big pieces of wood, and by big I mean several feet. And of course then you do need tools that will do that sort of thing fairly quickly. The sort of tools I use would take years to do something on that size of board, but that's right. So I've just gone silver. This is gold again. I generally, however, instead of saying fire writing, I would generally translate the pyrography more as painting with heat. It's almost a cooking technique actually, where you are effectively cooking the surface of the wood, which is what produces the different colours. Use the electrically heated tools to do it rather than flames, as I mentioned earlier. There are different styles of pyrography, just like there are different styles of art. There are pure black and white. There's sort of cartoon style with outlines around everything. and that's exaggerating it a little bit. But then there's a photographic style, which is how I prefer, which is everything's done using shading. You'll see that in the pyrographic images that appear. Now, one of the other things you'll see on there is not scraperboard, is punchcraft. It's a woolly looking thing. You'll see a couple of trains, I think, a couple of UK railway engines will show up in the pictures. And it's a miniature, sort of almost like a miniature rug, and it is using rug making techniques to do it, punching thread through a backing material to produce a picture, which is literally how they do make rugs commercially. You will also see in the picture roll there carving. I do relief carving on stream. So I take a block of wood and turn it into an object. You'll see a dragon at some point in the roll. The dragon's called Ruth. It's from a series of books written by Anne McCaffrey. And the world of Pern, if you're familiar with it. Now this is why when I'm opening the rings, as you can see, you'll see now while I'm closing it, I keep having to pick up and put down the pliers. I can sort of manage with them in my hand, it's easier to put them down, but it does slow down proceedings a little bit. Obviously to have to pick them up and put them down again. Gold. And I'll keep calling this stuff gold, but it's actually yellow. Gold is a darker, browner sort of colour. A few times I've done this candy cane. I effectively have had to refer to reference pictures to help me remember how to do it, and yet I've kind of realised how it's put together, and there's a couple of points where you have to work. If you're not familiar with it, you have to sort of work out which way should I turn the chain to put the next set of rings in, and you can spend quite a lot of time studying photographs and breakdowns of the chain which are available, and I've kind of just, let's say last night, and I've kind of just realised it now. I kind of have just understood how the chain goes together. And because I understand how the chain goes together, I can see the right way to rotate it and exactly how I want the rings. Oh, that's right. Doesn't stop your brain going on holiday for 5 minutes though, like that then, and thinking, I was trying to do the next layer on this layer, which of course wouldn't work. So that's silver, and now gold again. Gold. It's yellow. It's not gold. By the end of the evening last night, I'd managed to, because I did another one using this combination, but by the end of the evening last night, I'd managed to remember that this was yellow, not gold. and it looks like I've completely forgotten that again, and it'll be the end of the evening again today before I get back into calling it yellow, just when I'll probably switch to using a different colour altogether. And silver, back to silver, so that one goes through there. So this is a bracelet. I don't think I'll carry this on to a necklace length, but this is a bracelet, so I'll probably make it a 7.5 inch bracelet, which is a common length in jewellery terms. A lot of people are in that sort of order. So the bracelet itself then the chain itself needs to be about 7 inches long, because the clasp adds about ½ inch. So I don't know how long it is at the moment, but it's not 7 inches long. Now I've liked this weave ever since I first actually saw pictures of it, just because of the way in which the rings all intertwine with each other in what looks like a really complex pattern. And I suppose technically it is a complex pattern, but when you understand how the pattern goes together, it doesn't seem as complex. But the other thing about this weave, some weaves produce a looser chain than others, and this one depends partly on the size of the rings, or more accurately something called the aspect ratio of the rings. But at this size it's quite a nice firm bracelet. It doesn't squash as some do. And it, because of that, it's really kind of nice to just roll around in your fingers. For some reason, chainmail jewellery is very tactile, and if you were looking at chainmail and jewellery and thinking those two don't go together, that's because you're mixing up chainmail with armour. Chainmail is actually the technique of making chains with rings, which is what I'm doing here. There are simpler chains than this, but this is a chain made out of rings, chainmail. That's where the chain bit comes from. For armour purposes, what they do is they join those chains together to make sheets of material, which were then shaped into the pieces that needed for armour. So armour is made using chainmail techniques. Chainmail isn't armour. One of those interesting things. I know lots of people just don't particularly connect the two like that, but that's actually where it comes from. And chainmail has been used for jewellery for a long time now, and quite a few chains that you can buy, jewellery chains, are effectively just woven rings. In fact, almost all chains are woven rings in some shape or other. Sometimes they're not as ring shaped, something like a curb chain for example, technically uses rings that aren't ring shaped. They're kind of a flattened ring. In fact, it's curb chain, for example, is a simple 1-in-1 chain. Whereas something like a Byzantine chain, which is one that a lot of people know, that is chainmail. Byzantine chain is a common chainmail weave, and one of the reasons why it's common is because it's used a lot in jewellery. It's a simple one to use, but looks really quite nice and sort of an impressive chain because of the way the rings fold back on each other. As you might not have realised, we're now coming up to about 10 to 9, and I've been working on this last night, as I mentioned. Now, I've not been doing chainmail for a little while, so I'm a little bit out of practice, but I did about an hour or so of this chain last night, and we've now done about another hour and probably double the length. It's still not long enough. Now, okay, I'm a little bit out of practice, as I mentioned, but we're weaving, several. I don't know how many there is in this, but there's somewhere around sort of 200 rings go together to make a candy cane. It's quite a high density weave compared with some of the others. Byzantine, for example, in this size of ring, 6 rings make almost half an inch. Here we're probably something like about 12-14 rings making about half an inch. So it takes a lot longer to make, as a fair bit of time goes into it. Which is why you see, well, I mean, not only does handmade jewellery of course take time to make and over sort of machine made, but even chainmail here techniques mean that it can take quite a bit of time to make a piece of jewellery. But it is, as you can see, handcrafted. There's no, well, unless you count the tools as machines, there's no machines used. And of course, one of the advantages of the chainmail technique and the making of jewellery like this is the flexibility it gives you, even on a simple, what you might call a simple chain, like a 1-in-1 chain, a 2-in-2 chain, or some of the other weaves like Byzantine, for example, or even this weave. Here, for example, I'm using 2 colours. It can be made with 3. Actually, I suppose it can be made with more, but it can be made with 3, where you see the pattern spiralling around. You can make it in blocks, so you could have gold, yellow, or silver, yellow, red, blue, all sorts of mixes that can go together. And that's one of the things that's very useful, because literally every single ring can be a different colour, because there is only generally 15 of them. But every single ring, you can decide, do I want this yellow, do I want it red, do I want it blue, and you can mix and match the colours as you like. You can make these dotted. You could use all 15 colours one after another as you weave the rings together. And one of these days maybe I'll do that just to see what it looks like. But you can get some really pretty patterns and some really unique pieces. I mean, quite literally, I suspect if I used all 15 colours, there probably isn't another one exactly like that in the world. Might be now that I've thought of doing it, but if it looked nice I'd make more of them. But they are, you know, because of the ability to mix 15 colours, there are tens, well there are hundreds of thousands of weave patterns, 15 colours. There is such potential to have completely unique jewellery with this sort of technique. It's sort of, there's mind-boggling numbers involved if you start trying to do the maths. Right. Now I have also done some bracelets with niobium, anodized niobium, which is an interesting metal. Some pretty sort of dusky looking colours, which is quite nice. It's really a tough metal, as is titanium, which is another metal that's can be used to make bracelets, of course, both of which are really good because they're, relatively speaking, hypoallergenic, tend not to affect people with allergies, and both metals are quite hard to work with because they're so strong. Even in thin, small thicknesses like this, it can take quite a bit of effort to manipulate those rings. Another common metal that's used is stainless steel, or surgical stainless steel. That also is quite a hard metal to work with. Steel, as you might imagine, is quite strong. It does resist bending, which of course is what we do a lot of in opening and closing rings. So it can actually get quite tiring to do stainless steel jewellery. But of course, stainless steel is quite a nice shiny metal. A fair, well, like I was going to say, a fair substitute for sterling silver. It's not quite the same as sterling silver, and in actual fact, this aluminium is actually closer to the same colour as you would find with sterling silver. I don't sell sterling silver jewellery. I use it as a component for the clasp, but I don't sell it basically for legal reasons. If I was to make a chain and try and sell it as sterling silver, it would need to be hallmarked in order for me to do so. If I don't hallmark it, it would be a criminal offence here in the UK. And even if it is hallmarked, I also have to display all sorts of signs and things on the would have to be on the broadcast in order to comply with the law. But unfortunately, hallmarking is quite expensive, so I'm not working with sterling silver, even though I do like working with sterling silver. It is a nice metal to work with, and whilst I can make things, I can't sell them as sterling silver, that is, but I do have, for example, a bracelet here, which is mine. This is made from sterling silver. This is a little bit tarnished though, and that's one of the problems with sterling silver. You can get silver mixes which don't tarnish as easily, but they're not sterling silver. They're an alloy of silver, and you can sort of see the difference. Yeah. can see how shiny the aluminium is compared with sterling silver, which looks quite grey. And the aluminium will stay that way, stay this way. It doesn't go grey. Indeed, all that usually happens with the aluminium is it gets dirty, literally dirty, just like, you know, dust accumulating on it. And all you need to do then is just wash it with warm soapy water, basically, and it will come shiny again. You don't need any harsh chemicals or jewellery cleaner or anything like that. Just some soft soap and warm water, and then just let it dry naturally, and you'll get your shine back. There is one colour of ring actually that isn't shiny, and that's white. That's a matte colour. It's not a shiny colour. Shiny white would basically look the same as silver, so it's left matte. I think I should measure this just to see how long it is. Otherwise I'm likely just to carry on and end up with a necklace. Nothing wrong with a necklace, but when I'm intending to make a bracelet, a necklace isn't what I intended. Let's measure it now before I put these next two yellow rings on. And that's another cocktail stick that I've just broken. Now then, where is my ruler? Pussycat has been sleeping on the desk, and well, he's taken, it's Felix at the moment, has taken to knocking everything off. No matter where he is, he just knocks it off. And so you quite often find things where you're not expecting them to be. So we're just at about 6 1/4 inches, so actually this is almost finished. There's only about 3/4 of an inch left to go. So that's silver, that means gold. Or actually it means yellow, not gold. I do have to try and get it right, because if you were to say to me, of course, that you'd like a silver and gold bracelet like this, I'd make it with gold. And this isn't gold. You wouldn't get what you thought you were getting, because I keep missaying what it is that this is. This is yellow. So it is important I get it right. So we are actually close to finishing this particular bracelet off. No, do not fold yourself back like that. Thank you. Two lots of silver, and then we'll go back to the yellow rings again. So although it looks a complicated chain, candy cane is made up of sort of just two different layers. Excuse me, can I see where that ring went? Yes, I can. Made up of two simple layers, or yeah, it is two simple layers. One layer which is used to join the other layer to the previous one. Sounds a bit daft that way, but a lot of chains work that way. They're made in blocks, and then there's simple, what is just simple joining rings between the blocks. And candy cane's a bit like that as well. This particular at this particular point I'm doing this here, this is a complex, is the block bit, not the joining bit. So this one is the block is where the sort of the complex weave is usually done, which is what I'm doing here. And then the next pair of rings will be the join between this block and the next block. In this particular case, oh, how's that? I couldn't have done that right if I'd have tried exactly the right number of yellows. So this is just a simple join. Now, it won't be particularly obvious that that's what it is at the other end of the camera there, but when I'm looking at it here, they're almost loosely attached. That's not actually what has happened, but there we go. That's kind of the effect of the joining rings. They do tend to be somewhat looser in the pattern than the complex part of the block, which generally ties things together as it just has done there. Gone through correctly? Yes, it has. Okay, Creams, hello, good evening. Haven't seen you for quite some time. How are you doing? Could put another block on that, I think, for which I need some yellow rings. Hey, I got it right. Yep, those are the right ones. Mr. 10 inches, good evening. Thank you for following. That's kind of you. Good evening. Okay, I'll get all of these out of the packet. I don't need to put them, I can put them back in my storage case, so I don't need all this out, but I might as well get them all out and just open 4 rings. Don't think I'll need more than 4 for this to finish the. Oh no, I was going to say I don't think I'll need more than 4 to finish this off, and I probably won't. What I might use is the yellow though, for the to hold the clasp in place. Cupcakes are cool. Thank you also for the follow. That's kind of you. Good evening. Right, so I'll put another block on. That one was a complex block, so this wants to be silver. Through those two there. And through there. Now many chainmail weaves are actually symmetrical, so what you do on one side you do on the other, which does make life a little bit easier. There are some that aren't, and then that gets a little bit harder, but most of the chains are symmetrical. I'll check that length again. Yeah, that's probably about right actually. So we'll close this end off. So what I'm going to do is think of a way to do this. Actually, I wonder if I do that. Yeah, that might work quite well, because that'll, yeah. When you put a clasp on, as I'm about to do, you often will go from, where are my clasps gone? Now you'll often go from about 4 rings down to just 1, because quite often with a clasp you can't actually get more than 1 ring through the end of the clasp, and certainly through the little ring that's there. And certainly when you're trying to fasten a clasp, what you don't want to be doing is trying to hook it through 2 rings, because that's, when you're trying to fasten a bracelet, it's hard enough sometimes without sort of trying to get through multiple rings. So quite often there's a sort of a challenge in finishing off a bracelet like this in order to neatly go from 4 rings down to just the one that needs to support the fastening. And the one thing I also have to do is to make sure that both rings go through the little tiny fastening ring the same way. Sorry, my hands are in the way, but alright, go the other way through then. Because of the way I've opened the ring, it just literally wouldn't twist enough to get through the clasp. So that's one end. Now the one thing I've got to do is, the bracelet naturally sits one way, sort of, without a twist in it. Basically, just if you let the twist fall out and lay it down, what you then have to do is to take a note of where the clasp is, because the clasp always wants to lie flat like it does on the desk there. So when I come to do the other end, what I'm going to do is put rings in place that actually allow the clasp to stay flat, which means a ring has got to be a vertical ring here, because the clasp will want to lie flat, and if it can't, it will sort of twist and bend and not look actually as good as it might. So what I'm going to do now is I've now got sort of a set of rings here, and actually the best way of doing this is to remove one of these, because there's two. These two here are really the starting rings. They're the base on which the whole of the rest of the bracelet has been built, kind of like a foundation. But unlike a foundation, once you've built the rest of the bracelet, you don't need them. You don't need it anymore. So generally, I will take them off or fasten the clasp to them, one or the other. Right, I'm now just looking for the end. There it is. I can't see it, but I can just feel it. So I can twist that off. Now what I'm going to do with this is put it through all four rings. Now that might be a little tight. Here it is. So by a little tight, what I mean is there's not a lot of space there to actually get the clasp through. You can do it, but it would be a little bit fiddly. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to pop that ring there, and then that should, if I can get hold of it, fasten like that. There we go. Thank you, cupcakes are cool. Sorry, I'm concentrating a little bit and hadn't seen it. Did I end up advertising nickel free on Etsy? I can't actually remember, creams. If I didn't, I will update and say that they're nickel free. But there we go. That's that way. Cameras are backwards. That's a yellow and silver candy cane to go with what was a yellow and silver box chain that I did last well, not last night, but a couple of nights ago. I like the colour so much I did it again. So this box chain is actually a double helix. The yellow and the silver, although you have to study it carefully, actually spiral around each other, actually twist around each other to create the pattern. It doesn't show up as well as it might if it was a high contrast like red and silver, for example, and I may do one in the future. But having done it with these colours, I just like them so much, so I then did the same thing here with candy cane. And candy cane naturally has a spiral in it, but this also has a spiral, so the yellow spirals sort of around the length of the bracelet. So it kind of adds, you know, as you look at it, you can see a spiral going on, which is a fun little thing. So I've done that. Now what do I do now? That's a good question. I'll just show you, since Earlier on this week we did a little pendant as well. So this is a little heart-shaped pendant. I think I'll probably put. I was thinking about putting this on a thin sterling silver chain necklace. So that was something. Despite how small, relatively speaking, this looks, this has got something like about 150 rings in it, which is actually more than that box chain there. And actually took about twice as long to make as that box chain did. Just because of all the little tiny rings that join everything together. So you don't actually, as you can see, you don't actually have to make chains with chainmail. This is the weave, or the way that these are put together, is actually called a Japanese style, and it is the way in which chainmail was done in Japan, using that sort of style, as opposed to the more European interwoven styles that get done. I am thinking that, as I like this colour combination, I am going to get some more silver rings out. And I'm going to do one of my other favourite weaves in this colour combination. We'll do a half Persian, and we'll do a half Persian 4-in-1. Yeah, let's get some more. Let's get all the silver out, and then the thing about the half Persians is the top half and the bottom half. When you use two colours, the top half and the bottom half of the chain sort of, it's like half one colour, half the other colour, which I think might look quite nice in this colour combination. Half a ring. You don't see them very often, but occasionally. It's not broken. It was probably the very last ring on the when it was made. So I'm going in the bin. Serves no purpose whatsoever. Right. So in order to do this, I am going to need to open rings. Which, if you've seen me do it before, is literally just twisting them using this tool in my left hand, which is a ring opener, which is ironically enough a ring. And I'm just twisting them slightly so that the gap between the two ends of the wire is wide enough to get another ring through. Now I do know for this one I'm going to need 3 closed rings. Actually, yeah, okay, I'll close the yellow. They're all closed actually. One colour is closed, one colour is open. So I'll close the yellow and I will open the silver. Since I've already started opening the silver, it seemed a bit silly to immediately then close them all again. Dual Dragon, good evening and welcome to the studio. Who's not been around much, you or me? I've not been around for a little bit. I've been very busy with work, which has meant long hours, and I haven't particularly wanted to, well, it's meant long hours whilst I, so I haven't been able to stream because of the long hours, and even when I had the finished early enough to stream, I didn't really feel like it. So you haven't? Okay, well, that makes two of us then, so you haven't missed much. Coincidence. So this chain here is what the rings have formed all by themselves in the packing. Oh, that's not very good. Let's hope you're able to complete successfully. It's Christmas now anyway, so time for a rest. I suppose what I could do here is actually look at my notes, which will tell me exactly how many rings I need to do this, which will save me doing too many. So if I also do a 7.5 inch in this as well, so I am going to need about 4. No, that's not. Is that the right one? "96 rings. I mean 46 of each colour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46. And a lot of theatre shows you had to make happen. Okay. Why did you have to make a lot of theatre shows happen? Right. So that's 46 of those. Now it should only need 44 of the yellow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, one more, no, 42, 43, 44. Okay, so these need to be closed. Oh, I see. So, what do you actually do in the theatre then, Doyle Dragon? As crew, that is. Of course, as from front of house, you don't see what goes on behind. So, most, me included to some extent, most people have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. Okay. Spotlight operator, eh? You shed light on everything. That I understand is quite a warm job next to those lamps. I'm guessing that they're not as bad as they used to be with the old arc lights, but yeah, I can imagine. Maybe as LEDs improve, and they still get hot, but it might not be quite so bad as the current lights. Yeah. It's a bit like a nail puzzle if you ever come across them. Bent nails twist it together, and the puzzle is to either undo them or put them back together, depending on how successful you were at the first. Light is light. It's I mean, the LEDs aren't powerful enough at the moment, I don't think, to do that, but it's just colour temperature. So of course, you know, I'm imagining you're using something like argon bulbs to get fairly white light, but of course the old arc lights used to be really light, really blue, very white light, but with a blue tinge. And I'm guessing the ones you use now are more orange. So that's one thing, sort of stage shows of all kinds, and where they sort of talk about music or theatre or things, the lighting systems that they use now for automatic control of things and computer control are up, and the lighting themselves with directional spotlights and colour changing lights and things like that is some absolutely amazing technology these days in theatre. And if I ever go to a concert, which isn't very often, but when I go to a concert, I spend a lot of time just before the show starts actually just looking at the lighting rigs. I spend a lot of time looking up. Well, they can't argue with experience, can they, really? It will be a fun discussion, won't it? No, you can't do that. Because you don't know how to do it. Oh, I do it every night in a theatre, so why do I not know how to do it? Yeah. Right, two more, and then we will weave this bracelet. Let's see if I remember the way of doing this, and if I can remember my little trick for doing it. And that one didn't close quite properly, so we'll try that again. There we go. Right. So one, two, three, now then this weave for the half Persian 4 in 1 is an awkward one to start normally, because if you let go of the rings then it becomes a real a real pain to sort them out. So I'm now going to try and remember. Is it 3 in 1 or 4 in 1? That one, that one, that one. I'll pick that up, I think. So I'm just going to go through. How's it that way around? Maybe it's that way around. That does seem better. That's it. Through there and that one through there. And I've dropped one off, which is not good. Okay, put a twist in that. Can't fall off now. Yes, I can understand that one, Dull Dragon. I had, although I was, it was different for me at university. But when I was at university, I was doing it part time, and I was at university doing a course on the job I was actually doing. So I was literally doing the job that they were teaching us about in university, and so I knew I knew how to do it basically, and I knew more than the teacher for that very reason. And the teacher was getting it wrong as well, which was really frustrating. It was really frustrating because with the teacher getting it wrong and not accepting he got it wrong, I was having to give wrong answers on like homework and things like that to get it right, if that makes sense. And that was really frustrating. Here's me covering this up a lot with my hands, but getting this weave started is a little bit awkward. Once it's running, it's as I say, it becomes easier. But the first dozen rings or so on this are a real pain. If you to try and do it in your hand, almost certainly you get really frustrated, as I used to do until I worked out how to do it. So I've been through that one, it's now through that one, and pick up that one there. Now, before I learnt the trick of doing this, what I've just done up to now would probably have taken me something like 40 or 50 minutes previously to get this far. Now this weave still isn't quite what's described as, and that's wrong. He says I was on about getting it right, and then probably makes a mistake. So we'll just correct the mistake. Okay, easiest way is to take that ring back out. Yeah, splits there. Can I do this without splitting it? Yes, I can. There we go. Yeah, this is a real awkward weave to start. because if you were to do that, you'd get them all in a jumble and end up having to start again, unless you really are very good at this and could work out which way things were going. I've kind of worked my own way of understanding it, and now I don't spend 30-40 minutes trying to make it work at the start. Now this is still a little bit awkward. It's still not stable yet. Stable means that I could drop it without any problem of the rings coming out of their order. It's not quite stable yet. It's close, but not yet. I think probably with this ring going in, it probably will be. There we go. Nope. There. Yes, well the trick though, at that point though, Dull Dragon, is to teach them how to run the desk. Exilian, good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. How are you doing? It's Christmas time. Christmas, Saturday before Christmas. Although I really like these parallel jaw pliers that are in my left hand, the silver ones. The jaws are a little bit large. Keep getting that wrapped in the wrong place. And I think I need new glasses as well. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, because fairly obviously I wear glasses, I'm going to end up getting one of these head mounted magnifying things. I think, because it's actually a little difficult to see these rings sometimes because they're really shiny. They reflect light. And it sometimes makes it really difficult to see what you're doing. You and your beer, Exilian, you must go through gallons of the stuff. Yeah. The odd thing is, Dull Dragon, I know what you're talking about. With moving heads. Reflections, yeah, that, yeah. I'm going to say the reflections are probably something you have to worry about a bit, isn't it, as well? The bit I actually hate in it doesn't happen in theatre, but it happens in concerts, is when they point ahead at the audience, and I get light stabbing in my eyes. It really does feel like it's stabbing into my eyes. to the point where I actually have to close my eyes because it's painful. And yet they seem to do it a lot. Oh yeah, no, I know. I have been on stage. I have been in a long time ago. I have been in a play, and yeah, it's. I know what you mean. It's just a black wall. You just can't see past the lights at all, and that surprises a lot of people. They expect whoever's on stage to be able to see out into the auditorium, and of course, as you know, it's completely black. Yes, I did. I damaged that ring. So I'm holding the rings quite tight to get them to stop them basically just slipping out as have the pliers and shooting all over the place. But occasionally, as you'll hear like that snap, as you might have heard a moment ago, which is when the ring slips out of the pliers, and the pliers are being held so tight that they literally snap together. And if you ever try and do it with pliers, you just can't get the same snap sound, and yet you do it with a ring that slips out and you get a really sharp crack, and that's just the force of it closing, and you just can't replicate it. And it's but sometimes what will happen is, as the ring slips out, it sort of catches the edge of the pliers, and you'll get a scratch, which will either remove the coloured coating, or it will actually dent the ring itself. In this particular case, it did both. So that's why. Throw that ring away. Won't get used. And I just replace it with another one. Yeah, technically you can't work at that age, can you? But if you're that good at that age, then you've got something to look forward to, that's for sure. So I will wish you the best of luck with that in the future. The one thing I like about the half Persians is they do grow quite quickly. Things like the one I was doing earlier on tonight, the candy cane, doesn't. It takes quite a while to grow, just because there's so many rings in one section. And effectively for this particular weave, the half Persian, there's only 2 rings in each section, and that's gone through the wrong. Has that gone through the wrong place? Yeah, it has. I just need to open this ring. It's gone the wrong side of the ring before it, but I need to find where the opening is. And they're closed so well that I've difficulty finding them. That's it. And just close it back up again. Well, you certainly seems like you'll get if you go on to do it as a full-time job, you're certainly likely to travel the world. As a good lighting operator makes or breaks a show. Mind you, so does good music and everything else, but you know what I mean. They're a significant part of any show. What did I forget there? I forgot to put the next ring on. Sometimes you just get so concentrating on what you're doing so much that you actually forget what you're actually doing. In this particular case, I just forgot to put a ring on, which is the next one in the sequence. Well, as I used to say, if they're talking about you, at least they're not talking about anybody else. So we've got to watch out for you getting, was it, and I can't remember which is the right one. Is it Emmys or Grammys or things like that they give away in the film and theatre? Well, let's hope it comes about. It should do. Although it's, as you say, it's up to you to take it. Oh, come on. Again, I'm talking to the rings, which is perfectly alright, as long as they don't talk back. If they talk back, well, let's just say they haven't yet, so I don't know what I'd do if they did start talking back. Well, I guess if you like theatres, that is a good thing. Kind of like airline pilots who get to travel. Yes, that's true. Lady Zava does love the theatre. Don't think she's ever taken part in the theatre, just going to the theatre. And I used to, well, when I was younger, shall we say, I used to go to go to the theatre quite a lot. I don't go as much these days. But there again, I don't actually find a lot of what's on at the moment as interesting as I used to do. So it's just, I won't say it's fashion, but I guess as different productions come around, they change over time to reflect society and everything else. And come on, rings, there we go. Yeah. That's the that is true. They can be a little bit expensive. I mean, when you understand what goes on in a production, I guess you know the cost is sort of a little bit more understandable. But when all you see is when all you see is just the front of house production, then you sometimes wonder where all the money goes. It's all these international lighting operators that cost the money, you see. Okay, Dull Dragon, have a good evening and enjoy yourself, and thanks for dropping in. So whilst I'm doing this, I'll just say this is a half Persian, 4-in-1. The 4-in-1 refers to the fact that every one of these rings has got 4 other rings going through it, which is, I find it interesting. And there are versions of this which get like 6 and 8-in-1, so they get really complicated. Half Persian because a full Persian actually sort of has 2 side-by-side rings, so it forms like a cross. This is also forming a cross, but it's forming it more like an X rather than a cross. And instead of having 2 side by side, it's only got 1, hence the half Persian. The Persian bit though is an interesting one. Nothing to do with Persia, the Persian Empire, or anything like that. The name is probably a European construct, possibly from the point of view of probably named by somebody because we have the European weaves, 4-in-1, 6-in-1. We have the Japanese weaves. This is a different style to those two, so somebody just thought of somewhere else that was exotic sounding perhaps and just decided to call them Persian. So unfortunately not actually from Persia or anything anywhere near it. In fact, it's just as likely to have come from Blackpool as it is to have come from anywhere else. Now I did just make that up, by the way. I have no idea where it did originate from. Okay, I'll try that again. And I'll try it again. That's for the 4th time of trying to get that ring on. No, don't close that before putting another one on. Sometimes you just your brain skips a step. No apparent reason. It just probably just the way you sort of got hold of the pliers or the rings or something like that. But your brain just skips a step, and like then I was just about to close up the rings, missing out the step of putting another one on for the next section, and having dropped that I can't work out where I was, so I'll just take them off. That one, and that one. As you work with chainmail. You develop your own little tricks and techniques. Like at the start of this one, I've got my own way now of starting this particular weave, which takes all the pain out of doing it, because I can start it first time every time now, which before it was kind of like 16th time of trying that I might actually get it far enough to become a stable weave. And that could take a sort of easily take a couple of hours. Now it's their first go, which is fantastic. And the way in which these I actually put this ring through is also a sort of a little technique I've developed for myself, which makes it easier. And it's only just basically through practice or through doing it a few times and seeing, you know, just trying things out, trying little different ways of doing things. Of course, occasionally, even though it's a simpler technique for me, it does occasionally cause problems when a ring doesn't want to go where it wants to go. Or you shoot one across the desk like that. Okay, not actually far off, I don't think, finishing this. So although we are just slightly around the 10 o'clock mark, which is when I would normally finish the stream for the evening, I think I will just complete this bracelet. In a minute we'll just check the length. Let me take that starting helper off. Let's see how long that looks like. There's my ruler, it's there. Again, make this one, oh, that one's shorter than I expected. Obviously either I can't count, I'm actually using smaller rings than I thought I was using. So what I will do actually is I will call it a night. I'm not going to finish it. It won't take long. There's only about a quarter of an hour to finish it, but we'll do that on another stream, not tonight. So this is actually just, yeah, it's about 5 inches. So it needs to be about another 2 inches before I put a clasp on it. But we'll do that tomorrow. Okay, I have one closed ring left there. I'll put one more on, just because I've got that closed ring, and it'll save me losing it. Of course, that's now going to prove the most awkward one to do. It's Murphy's Law. There we go. So that won't have made much of a difference to the length, but we will do some more on this tomorrow. So there's the bracelet we've been working on. Yellow on the top, silver on the bottom. Of course, unless you look at it that way, and it's the other way up. But it also forms yellow on the top, sorry, silver on the top, yellow on the bottom as well, on the sides. So you get sort of a nice sort of, I don't know, sunrise type pattern. It is actually an X. If you squeeze it, if you ever get hold of one of these half Persians, if you squeeze it, you can form an X shape, a cross, full cross, which is a half Persian. It's the Persian style in half of it, but naturally this one tends to want to flatten out into more of a band. But that's it for tonight. We'll do some more rings tomorrow and complete that and put a clasp on it. So what I'm going to do is, as I've been making jewellery, I will point out the jewellery shop, which is, I'm getting better at this, is there on Etsy. Take a look. When I've taken some photographs for the next couple of days, these will go into the Etsy shop. They will probably go on eBay as well if you want to actually buy one more quickly. I will say, however, now it's probably too late for Christmas. If anybody wants one for Christmas, certainly might just be possible in the UK, but internationally it wouldn't get delivered in time. But there is Valentine's coming up soon. New Year. So take a look. If you're not following me, I would recommend that you do so. Of course I'd recommend that you do so, but you'll get a message from Twitch when I go live, so that will help you see me finish that bracelet tomorrow. If you like, you can also follow me on Twitter. A tweet goes out when I go live, and occasionally other things to do with jewellery or some of the pyrography or something like that. Other than that, I should be around tomorrow, approximately 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours GMT. About 2¼ hours ago it was 8 o'clock, so that time in whatever time zone you're in. Ultimate Tiba. No, I'm just about to finish. So, nice to see you, but bye for now, and thanks everybody. See you in the studio in the future. Bye bye.